John, take it away.
Hi everyone, this is John from Block Transfer, and let's jump right into it. We'll start here with a little bit of our company. Now, when you trade stock through a normal broker, it goes through a very complicated process that adds a lot of middlemen, which introduce a lot of hidden fees, processing time, and headaches on the back end that most investors don't see. We estimate these costs for an average portfolio to be about 0.5% per year, which is really just a shame. And that's kind of the big objective we're trying to tackle here with our project through a means called a transfer agent. So when a company goes public, they hire a firm called a transfer agent to keep a list of all their investors. You might use one if you ever had book entry stock through a direct share purchase plan or an employee stock option plan. The problem is, if you and I want to trade on the books of a transfer agent, I'm holding in my hands a stack of paperwork, if you can hear that. No video on Discord, but it's big. That's what you have to fill out. Take that to a bank. You and I would have to go together. We'd have to go to the bank officer. He would have to direct us to a local branch that actually offers a medallion signature guarantee stamp. We have to go to that branch, have the banker review all our paperwork, 2 forms of ID, stamp off the documents. Then we have to go to the post office and mail all that in. Just incredibly convoluted process. Here's what it looks like with our platform. So we find a stock that we want to trade, and we can pull their order book and their prices directly from Stellar. And we'll push trade here. We've got 480 shares, and that's directly from our Stellar wallet balance. Say we want to buy some more. So we put in this buy order, and immediately that gets submitted to the SDEX and shows up here on the live order book via Stellar. Now, a very important aspect of everything here is that this is all non-custodial. So the user will sign up through onboarding and generate a wallet locally. They'll send us their public key, which we use for all the reporting, dividends, stock splits, proxy voting. And they'll actually just sign all the transfers and trades locally. And God forbid they lose their key, everything is clawbackable to reset. And this is all up to the best practices in the industry. We've been registered with the SEC for over a year, and we are insured against error by Berkshire Hathaway. In terms of what that looks like for the user, let's say we want to do a very simple transfer. We want to send 230 shares to our Investor Friends Federation address, which they can also set up during onboarding. So we set up the transfer, send our demo stock to the friend, and submit it directly to the Stellar chain. And just like that, it'll show up there in our transfer history. Moving along to the company side of things, those are our actual clients. So the investors use the app for free. And then for the companies to get their stocks on our app, they have to assign us as their transfer agent. This is what public American CFOs have the complete and total authority to do at will. And on average, they're starting contracts for their agents around 20 grand a year. And the average in the US is about 400,000. And they are just in so much pain. They really, at the moment, are so frustrated with the transfer agents because of all the paperwork and manual reviews that are involved. They're spending half their Mondays running a $300 million company just approving routine vesting schedules, which could be very easily automated with claimable balances. So far, we've talked to 31 public American CFOs, and just overall, they are really dumbfounded by how there's been a lack of innovation in the space, and are clawing at us, asking for an actual interface to our back-end products we've been building over the past couple of years on Stellar to solve this for their investors and keep a record of their stocks. We've actually had one client, private company, reach out to us unsolicited, asking us to be their transfer agent in an exempt offering. And the way we're implementing that as a chance to prove ourselves is through using Lobster as a basic UI and front end for everything. It's not as seamless, though. The investors have to send us their public keys. They have to manage the trust lines. They have to deal with the account balances and lumens. And so that's why we're here working and ideally getting this grant for our app so that we can make the whole process just a lot more streamlined now that we have everything proved out. A little more on our team. As the founder, I published my first book on securities trading strategies in high school, where I also co-founded my first blockchain startup. And since then, I launched a small family fund where we invested in many exotic assets. At the fund, we saw the relatively small hidden fees commonplace in markets exacerbated 40-fold, and we knew there had to be a better way. Here's an example where you could just very simply reinvest your dividends by putting a new buy order in once it gets sent to your account directly on the Stellar network, instead of going through a manual, slow broker at average prices, paying tons of fees for all that, and just a lot of hidden fees that you wouldn't normally see, but that really have a big effect on your long-term portfolio. And perhaps more significantly, affect who can actually invest. Because at the end of the day, we shouldn't exclude 6 billion people from investing.
Are you still here?
I am, that's that.
Okay, great. Awesome. Yeah, no, I was just not sure if that was the end. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, John, for your presentation. You're entirely right that, like I really like this use case, and I think like it's been explored before, but not enough. Great. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, John, this is a great opportunity. As far as your transfer, and you said on the blockchain, are you going to be using some kind of tokenized asset, or is this just an accounting for each of the exchanges you're working with?
Yeah, so I can actually pull up a quick demo asset, but it's basically what you would think of when you think of an asset just sitting on Stellar. So say we have our demo asset here, just like any other asset on Stellar, and you're going to be able to easily check, for instance, the outstanding shares or the pending trades. Everything's just right there as a native asset on Stellar.
So are those tradable like in Lobster, or are those tradable only through your thing? I mean, how do you keep it that it doesn't get pumped and hurt?
Yeah, so it's tradable directly through the SDEX. So anybody with a wallet that goes through onboarding will be able to trade.
Oh, Reinhard, can you please unmute yourself? Great. Any more questions?
So, Tom, what is the advantage for retail user to use this instead of Robinhood?
Yeah, the big pain point we see here are the people that invested with Robinhood, especially during the GameStop era, because at the end of the day, the way that the central clearing systems work, they create a lot of shares that actually don't exist. And it's known as naked short selling, and it's something that a lot of people in the Robinhood community have personally dealt with. It's a very, very large problem. And so when you register directly through the transfer agent on the books of the company, you circumvent all of that and you indirectly increase the actual value of the company's stock, while also, like I mentioned earlier, avoiding about 0.5% per year in hidden fees that you get through the normal trading broker system.
Thank you.
Great. I actually a question. So John, John was also part of the Block Transfer app, was also part of the SCF 11 bootcamp. They made great progress. John, I know when you spoke to me last week, you were still dealing with an issue regarding kind of like from the US and that how securities work, and you had to use clawback. Have you looked into that, or what is the update? Because I did hear that you mentioned clawback, and I would love to hear more on how you're using it and why.
Yeah, so clawbacks have from day one always been a really important thing that Stellar was really one of the only chains that could natively do it. And basically, just at its core, if you have any stock outstanding and the company wants to do a reverse split, as a transfer agent, you have to effect that reverse split, and the only way to do that is through clawbacks. And then also, since we are registered and regulated by the SEC, if there is some kind of trading halt by them, you have to stop trading on the stock. So disabling the trust lines lets us do that as well through Stellar. So just a lot of the minute granular controls that Stellar has over the assets that you issue were really big draws to the platform.
And we're coming up on time here, but what is your kind of like timeline look like? Like, what are your goals in terms of users onboarding? Like, when will you be ready? Like, what does the timeline look like? Yeah.
Yeah, so this first contract you're doing, the private exempt company, they're only going to have like a couple dozen shareholders. So that'll be a pretty easy little chance to start implementing it. Once we have the app finished up, which we really want to have sort of towards the beginning of next year, this grant would really help us speed it up. We already have 10 very good soft commitments from public companies, and 8 of them are pretty much micro cap, small cap firms. Each of them only have a couple hundred shareholders. And as soon as they assign us as their transfer agent, their investors will go through our platform and they'll have to use us to move around their shares. So that'll be a really good next step, is basically just taking on a couple thousand investors from the pre-existing transfer agents for our clients.
Awesome. Well, great to know. Thank you so much
I'll
for your
do it.
presentation. Oh, yeah, we are on time.